funnily enough, speaking of stuff being revealed in trailers, when me and Talia saw the trailer for Challengers, both of us were like, we'd love to see it, can't wait, sexy tennis movie. We thought the trailer had revealed far too much about Challengers. And, in the trailer, there's a moment where you see that Zendaya sustains an injury, which means she's no longer allowed to play. I thought that was probably revealing more than I wanted to know about this dynamic. First of all, I think we'll get into it. The film's, I think, very different to what I thought it was going to be, even sort of from what I'd heard about, sexy tennis film. But I was glad to say that the trailer doesn't give away what this film offers. Did you think that as well?
Yeah, I only watched the trailer once because you know what I'm like.
Done. Yeah.
But I agree. I even when I'd gone to see like Back to Black, they played the trailer for the Challengers, and I looked away as I normally do. But I did catch a whiff of dialogue that was like, oh, immediately that's a different film than I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Challengers, latest film from an Italian sat me down for 2 minutes.
Luca Guadagnino.
Yeah, it's the
Guadagnino
or something. Luca Guadagnino from Call Me by Your Name, from Bones and All, from
the
Suspiria,
remake,
which
A Bigger Splash.
I really liked Bones and All, but I know a lot of people didn't.
Yeah,
you didn't really get on with it.
I really didn't connect with it.
Yeah, I've spoken to a couple of people who also really loved it, but I think actually very underseen. A lot of people don't know that he put out Bones and All because it's quite a big ask. It's like, the film where they eat people.
As a
check
metaphor
it out.
for like being sidelined and being marginalised as people. Yeah. Anyway, I didn't. But yes, you can go if you want to catch our review of Bones and All late 2022,
which is a surprisingly popular episode of ours.
Yeah, it's Bones and All. She Said and After Sun. If you want to go and watch
it's
that.
one of our best 40 episodes, and me and George can't figure out why. We don't get a lot of tennis movies, George.
We don't actually. Wimbledon.
I love Wimbledon.
I've never seen it.
Oh, great play movie.
Sure. Yeah.
Great play movie.
Oh yeah.
One for
Match
a holiday.
Point, isn't there? Match Point. Sorry, that's the Woody Allen movie. Is that a tennis movie?
Don't know.
But there's not a lot.
Not a lot. Actually, like soccer movies, football movies, we don't get loads of.
Do we get many sports movies at all?
Just boxing, really.
Oh, it is all boxing.
Boxing,
male,
fighting. Bit boring, isn't it?
I hate you. I'm gonna punch you. It's basically Rocky.
You're a Korean. I love you, kid.
Yeah.
You gotta go fight for it. Anyway, we don't get many tennis movies, but I like tennis movies. Tennis is dramatic, it's sexy, it's intense.
Tennis,
The outfits are great.
Is it sexy? It's sexy in this movie. I don't think I've ever looked at tennis and gone, oh, bloody hell.
I have. Roger Federer is sexy.
Oh, I suppose so.
The sweat. Of course. No! The intense eye contact, the screaming, the sexual screaming. Yeah. Of course it's sexy. I think take that back.
I'm just a very pure mind.
But when we're talking about tennis films, there's a very strong argument to say that it is a very deeply intense film, romantic, intense film about a love triangle where they happen to play tennis as their means of communicating. There are many times in this film where they go, are we still talking about tennis?
Yes.
Love triangle film starring Zendaya plays Tashi Duncan. She is at the age, she's about to go pro. She's just turned 18 and she's on the verge of becoming the next big star in tennis. She's dripping with brand deals from the likes of Adidas and Evian. And watching her in one of her about to go pro tennis matches are Josh O'Connor and Mike Feist, who play childhood friends who are also burgeoning tennis stars who do not have any of the same sort of attention that Tashi does. Both of them immediately, simultaneously fall in love with Tashi as they watch her play in a gorgeous...
As they watch her play tennis, crucially. It's during a tennis match. It's all interlinked.
It's in love with how good she is at tennis, watching her stroke down the ball, admiring what she's able to do, but also the stardom with which she emanates from her, the radiating glow. Zendaya just being gorgeous and fantastic and in taking that on. There is immediately a non-linear structure to this, almost like a fusion fission sexy Oppenheimer, but for tennis. We start actually seeing these characters when they're sort of a little bit older, playing each other in a very small challengers bout to potentially play in the US Open. We cut back 13 years earlier to the moment where these guys are just turning 18.
2019 to 2006.
Yes, and then we go back 3 years forward, back again.
Midnight.
Aging,
the week
de-aging.
before, a little later.
And it is all about an intense love triangle and this whole idea that in between the milliseconds of slow motion, of the bounce of a ball, the way in which you serve, the eye contact that is made between other player, coach, audience. Like if you ever watch tennis, you know that tennis players will often look to their coach in between, and then there's all sorts of eye contact that happens. There's this whole idea that in between that are very intense unspoken, deeply evocative suggestions about what is going on in this. And many times Tashi says tennis is a relationship, how you play with the other person, how you play with yourself, the mind games. Is a ball that is faulted just a fault? Is it due to fatigue? Is it due to what you're trying to communicate? And this film fleshes and unearths all of that with a brilliant, evocative techno score coming from the great Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I didn't know it was them when I started the film, and I was listening and I was like, this is Trent and Atticus all over.
Yeah.
And then at the end I waited and I was like, of course it was. I know my film's got a film podcast. I think, George, do you want to just go in? How did you get on with Luca Guadagnino's challenges?
It won me over because I have to say, the first 20 minutes, I was like, "Oh, this is."
sit with you similarly.
I was like, I'm not sure I'm feeling this. I found the cross-cutting editing quite fierce and abrupt and a little bit abrasive. And I felt kind of on the fence. However, the second that they meet Zendaya, the second it cuts back to 2006 and you follow how they met Zendaya for the first time and they have that interaction, that's when it comes alive, because the film then is electrified by sexual tension and sexual chemistry. Like that's great. I think on the whole, I think it's a good, thrilling, different, refreshing,
so different
movie that at times I'm like, I wanted to get the script to read it because I love all the lines back and forth and all the subtext and the way it was cutting. I was like, oh, this is really thrilling. And actually the way I would describe it is like, it's an erotic thriller. People keep talking about it as like a sports movie. I'm like, no, it's an erotic thriller, but instead of guns and car chases for a thriller, it's a gladiatorial tennis match. It's like The Last Duel in a way. If you have this, the tennis match, the central tennis match it keeps cutting back to in the present day, is like medieval times when you have two knights and the lady that they're fighting over is in the stands looking down over them. And so as an erotic thriller, that's why I'm like, this is how it works for me.
I also think it purposefully doesn't choose its final match to be the final of the US Open or the Wimbledon final.
No.
It's very purposefully the qualifying challenger bout to potentially qualify for a major title. That it shows you tennis is not the main objective here. There's something much deeper going on, which is why you should pay attention.
And I think as an erotic thriller, that's why I get excited about it, because as a genre that's kind of been dormant for a while, but it's been kind of coming back. People said like Fair Play was an erotic thriller and Love Lies Bleeding, which we reviewed before, but which is now out, have said, oh, it's an erotic thriller. But of all of those ones that are actual erotic thrillers, this is the one, the sexy sports, sweaty comedy, not comedy, sweaty, sporty drama.
It's
funny in times. This is the one that feels true like that. And what I like is on the one hand, you have the, intricate, I want to read the script of this, but there are also times when the music stops, when the star just abates a little bit, that I go, is this really trashy? Is this a little bit trashy? Is this like an MTV, a really horny MTV movie with just gorgeous people, gorgeously
sweating?
I will just say for the screenplay, it's written by Justin, I think Kruzikis is pronunciation, who is the husband of Celine Song, who made Past Lives. 2 films about love triangles, in a way. I
can see them just looking over each other's notes.
Oh, really? With the score, which has this, I mean, I love Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross. I've never had this before with a movie. It's like, I loved the score 80% of the time. So
did it overdo it for you?
Yeah. So 80% of the time, I was like, oh, fuck yeah. I love this kind of music anyway, but I was like, it's just working, it's just sexy. And then the other 20% of the time, I was like, shut up. Shut up and turn it off.
The number of times it would go, boom, boom, boom,
I was like, please, Trent, Atticus, turn the dial down. But there is something very refreshing about it. I think that, if you're going to make something that's an erotic thriller, is it erotic? It is sexy. I don't, typically find films sexy as such. There's a question on the Films to Be Buried With podcast, which is like, what's the sexiest film you've ever seen? I'm like, well, I don't really watch films with like my jaw on the floor like that. But with this one, I was like, no, this is sexy.
Very sexy.
It's very about physicality and bodies and close-ups on muscles and sweat.
Eating and feeding and giving you and the body.
Yeah, the study of the body. And it's very sensuous like that, which I...
slow motion used. I mean, like we talk about sort of not losing patience with it. Like I think towards the end, I'm like, this is way overdone.
Oh, the style,
but the final fight, action sequence, if you want to call it, I was so there for it. I was like, this is still brilliant, though.
Did you think
this is over dramatic?
Do you think he just said, if we're going to keep returning to this tennis match, why don't we shoot it in every conceivable way?
Let's get a camera and fling it over the net.
Let's have the point of view of the ball, the first person shooter point of view.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I think I came out of it thinking a little bit overblown. Wasn't sure about it at the beginning, but I like how refreshingly sexy it was. Films have been also very pious in the past like decade or so. They've been unafraid to get sexy, and I like the fact this was doing this. It's although it's Luca Guadagnino, it's still getting quite a mainstream release, and one of the biggest people on the planet.
Yeah.
Like. Yes, I enjoyed it.
I think the three of them were brilliant in this. Straight away, I think they totally delivered. There's wonderful contrast between, especially the two guys and the three of them. Like visually, Mike Feist's character is blonde hair, neat back and sides, cleanly shaven. That very shaven, that brand-friendly tennis star.
Yeah.
Then you look over at Josh O'Connor, who doesn't quite reach the same heights in his career for whatever reason. Patchy beard, sweaty, got the sort of awkward looking shorts, but played against each other so well. I love how tennis is not a sports film, as we've said, but it's really wonderfully used as a tool to manipulate these three people in all sorts of different ways. And the things that are said and how different relationships ebb and flow throughout this whole relationship, I just think were really, really good. I was shipping for different combinations of those three at different times. Although I still, so I know Josh O'Connor mainly from The Crown. I've not really seen him in other stuff, but hello, Josh O'Connor. The abs?
Yeah, I mean,
in love. Because Bevan's going to write in and she said she's a Mike Feist fan.
Oh, I think Mike Feist is great, yeah. I like he's very muscular and sort of...
so Josh O'Connor does it for me in that. Zendaya, obviously.
I mean, they're all gorgeous.
Stunning.
It's just gorgeous.
But I didn't look at him as Charles and think, oh yeah, Josh O'Connor.
No,
tell me more.
Because he was... thank God we didn't see Charles with his top off, that's why. But I do think that there are... in terms of Luca Guadagnino's work, I've only seen Call Me By Your Name and Bones and All before this. Like I said, Bones and All wasn't that great. Call Me By Your Name, I really like. Some people love it. I really like it. But I do think I was quite electrified by some scenes. Even like I said, first 20 minutes didn't work. But when they're having that first meeting with Zendaya in the bedroom, I was like, oh, I love this. This is exciting. And you're using sexual tension to be the main driving tension of the movie. It's just so brilliant. And then you throw in all the sports metaphors and the discomfort with how they're also quite horrible people.
Yeah, all
them,
very flawed and insecure.
Horrible. And
tennis is a very cutthroat, brutal world. You're either making it and winning or you're not.
So I think like I said, I think maybe we're on the same page, which is like, love the style, gorgeous,
refreshing,
a bit too much. It's turned up
overdone, but when it was overdone, I was having the most fun.
That's the thing.
And I was so with the film. But I'm chuckling. I'm like, this is a little bit silly,
also,
but I'm there.
And when I said that, is this a little bit trashy? I don't have a problem with that because the film is not trying to insist that it's anything deeper, I don't think.
Yeah.
It's about a love triangle and it's kind of
there's great subtext
the dynamics,
to explore.
But it's not trying to be a diatribe on a deeper topic. So I can enjoy the kind of sexy melodrama of it.
On structure, you mentioned before about time jumping and back and forth and back again and back and forth. Sometimes I watch these films that will do that, and my initial reaction, like we talked about the first 20 minutes, is, can you not? I want to stay there.
Yes.
Can we come back once and then come back? Or
yes.
Can we do in media res? Can we start in the middle, then tell me how you got there, and then do your ending?
Yeah.
So sometimes when films jump, I'm like, no, tell the story.
Calm down, yeah.
But
it's hyperactivity.
In that last half an hour, when all the information you've been given and all the context starts to make sense, I go, there you go. You did earn the right to jump around, and I'm glad you sort of spliced your novel in a million different pieces and put it back together again.
I will say that there is one time jump, although like abrupt. I was with it. There was one particular time jump. I was like, you've actually lost me a bit there about where exactly we are, because there's like 3 specific time jumps back and forth in a very short like a minute. And I'm like, oh, hang on, stop my head. But yes, it's...
Just quickly, you guys wonderfully wrote in with your thoughts on challenges. Bevan writes into hello@pulpkitchenpodcast.com and says, what's the story? I was so pleasantly surprised to have a non-review episode this week.
Yeah.
Not that I don't love the Film Chat apps. Also, love the new game. The new game will return. Thank you for all the wonderful feedback on the sound game. Go and listen to that last week if you haven't already. Would love to hear more rounds of this. You go on to talk about something else, but I want to move on to the challenges. Bevan says, I went to an advanced screening of challenges, and holy mother of God, this film is exactly what I wanted it to be. The reason I wanted to write in was to gush about the score. Reznor and Ross are back at it again, providing us with an absolute banger. Their score for The Social Network is a masterpiece that I listen to in frequent rotation. I'd say they're the dream composers I'd love to work with. Also, I need to marry Mike Feist. That's all. Bevan, I'm sorry, I'm a Josh O'Connor fan now. Get the poster on my wall.
Why does it have to be? Why can't we just have a threesome? Like, that's what the whole movie is about. No. Sorry, I meant like the whole movie is about. Just have sex with all of them.
Yeah,
they're all gorgeous and they're all very talented.
They were great.
I'm not proposing anything. I'm just saying if why would I pick one of them? They're all gorgeous.
Bevan,
if they have me.
Bevan, we're going to get back to your other question later, but we're just moving on quickly to challengers' emails.
Yes, Daniel writes in and says, "Hi, James and George. Dan from Brisbane here. Hope you guys are well. Just want to give my thoughts on Challengers. I was quite excited for this movie after having heard some incredible things from those who saw it. Unfortunately, I came away from the film quite frustrated and disappointed. To start with the positives, the acting was absolutely top-notch, with Zendaya in particular proving to be an absolute powerhouse presence on screen.
Totally.
For the most part, the cinematography was also stunning. Agreed. It's that luscious Luca Guadagnino, like, shot on film.
I want to know the
sexy
person
gorgeous.
with the sweat.
Oh, yeah.
Dripping.
The camera movements felt deliberate and striking, especially with how they made simple scenes of dialogue into tennis matches of their own. Absolutely. Unfortunately, there were some odd choices from the film that didn't work for me. The dialogue felt robotic at some points and just perplexingly unrealistic. Oh, I see. And yes, the story about learning to, for example. Well, but yeah. While the cinematography was mostly great, those tennis ball POV shots were just not it. Not sure if it was maybe just the motion sickness kicking in, but it derailed the tension that had built up until that point.
There's two moments. There's a first-person view, and then there's you are the ball.
And there's also the shot, like the floor of the tennis court is see-through, and you'll see it from underneath.
Oh, I like that.
I like that.
Yeah.
But this is always the thing, the more formal you do something, a device as a director, the more attention you draw to it, the more it can pull you up. And it was like a very commercial element, way of directing something. Like if the logo of Adidas had appeared on the screen at that point, I would have been like, oh yeah, sponsored by Lucozade.
This film going all the way is, you talk about dialogue, is that this film transforming itself completely is removing dialogue completely, arming you with information and going, I can show you everything you need to know about these characters without any dialogue, and that's sort of either going to charm you or sort of slightly annoy you.
Another reason why I wanted to read the script, because about how you get meaning from the film, not from dialogue, and how dialogue services that.
Also, shooting in what must have been at least like 500 or 1,000 frames a second for most of that action sequence, directing actors to do very quick gestures and emotions in slow motion is very hard to conceptually track as you're directing, and to communicate to your actors that little moment of second was actually 6 seconds that's going to play out on screen. That's quite hard. I admire it for that, actually.
I also felt the pacing was a little bit lackluster. I found myself wanting to check my watch after seeing set 2 pop up. While I understand the intent to bounce back and forth from present to past like a tennis match, being reminded that you've only seen a third of the film after what seemed like a lot longer just didn't help. While the final set was brilliant in terms of tension, pacing and storytelling, I'm afraid it was a case of too little, too late for me personally. Lastly, I'm not sure how to express it, but it seemed like there was a lot of excess. There was a lot of focus on trying to make it sexy rather than tightening up certain aspects of the film. For example, the sexual tension between the two male leads didn't enhance the story for me, and it seems like it was put in there to add sexiness. I think that's the balance. I think the tension between them is different. I mean, these are two presenting as two straight male characters, but there's a deeper love and sexual tension. It's not even. It's so subdued and subtextual.
Yeah.
I know. That's why sometimes people calling it a love triangle is a bit strange, because it's not, the love that they have for each other is not a sexual love.
But it could very much easily be indulged in, and like the feeding of the churros and the
exactly.
anecdotes.
It's there. But it's much more subtextual.
sauna scene.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Oh, it's
on the sort of structure of it. Like if it had immediately cut to Alden Ehrenreich and Robert Downey Jr. in Congress just having a conversation, I would have been like, yeah, of course.
Well, that makes sense.
Time jumping.
Anyway, thanks, Dan. And sorry to hear you were disappointed by it. I do get why some people might be a bit like, no, not for me. But I think
it's a lot.
It won me over in the end.
This next one is from Naomi, who says, "Hi guys, hope you're both well. I watched Challengers the other day and I absolutely loved it. The story was told in such an interesting way that when you go in, you don't really care about tennis and you start seeing a tennis match, and then the way the movie is built to you, you start caring. You root for different people through the whole movie, and you keep on changing your mind the more information you have." Yeah, I really did feel that. The entire time I was at the edge of my seat, completely invested, and the way they used the music in confrontations and fights between the characters made it feel feel that much more intense. Of course, the cast was amazing. I love Zendaya. I really liked Mike Feist in West Side Story. I was excited to see him in this one, and I really didn't know Josh O'Connor, but now I love him. Right there with you, Naomi. I was worried if I was going to like the ending, but I thought it was great how the movie it kept going back and forth, whether it was just about tennis or about friendship and love, and the ending reflected those thoughts and closed the circle in a great way. That was the first movie in a long time that made me forget who I am, where I was, and what was going on in the world because I was so captivated by the storyline. Have a wonderful day, Naomi.
Thank you, Naomi. With the ending, we'll talk about this in a non-spoiler way now.
Yeah.
I had one of those things that I simultaneously found it, satisfying and thematically sense, but also like,
I'll be honest, I thought we could have had another scene.
yes, yeah.
I think there's another scene to just, it's a nice little, and we're done. But I was like, oh, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
I'll fill in the blanks in my head.
And, and I'm like, I guess you've left it slightly, but I also think that you could, and also when the credits then happen,
seen it, you know.
It's also like the film's like, yeah, we're done now, good, thank you very much, because the credits roll and it's like, boom, music, Challengers directed this, and off you go. Because I like to sit and sometimes watch the credits. I was amazed at how quickly the credits were done. It was like the end, MGM logo, goodbye.
I wasn't ready to give my thoughts when I walked out. I was processing because the ending does it what it does. Guys, thank you so much for sending in. If you know you've seen it. Guys, that was our review of Challengers. Thank you so much for sending in your reviews. We'd still like to hear what you have to say. As always, send your thoughts, your questions, your concerns, your reviews to hello@popkitchenpodcast.com. George.
Go and listen to the final track, which is the actual one. The actual vocal song called Compress Repress by Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross.
You could run to
That's a good gym song, yeah.
You could get up in the morning before a big day. You got to deliver the presentation.
Yeah.
Getting on a private jet.
But a fun, sexy movie. There you go.
Fun, sexy movie.